Hey guys, T-Bull here. Today we're going to be talking about shell selection on the British battleships, and then we'll have a demonstration game in the Iron Duke for you. So first up, we'll just kind of go through the stat screens of the New York, Congo, and the Iron Duke. Iron Duke, you'll notice, has very high AP damage. It has the highest at the tier on my builds, 11,336, and the HE will be tied with the New York and lower than the Congo. The fire starting chance, 40%, very high, highest at the tier currently, 2 points higher than the Peter. But, you know, usually with all these British battleships up and down the tech trees, even some of the premiums, you see a lot of players just shooting HE throughout the entire game. Now you can say you see a lot of players in New York's just shooting HE throughout the entire game. I get it. But I think there's a little bit of a misconception about the value of the British HE shell, at least with regards to the battleships. Now you can make a case for the HE shells or the AP shells, or typically, you know, switching them back and forth depending on the situation is going to be optimal. But I see a lot of players on all the ships, tech tree, premiums, just shooting HE. The only two ships that I primarily just shoot HE on are the King George and the Nelson, the tier 6 premium. All the other ones I either almost always shoot AP or will be a little bit more active, but way more heavily weighted in terms of the AP. The fire chance is nice, but when we're comparing 11,300 and some odd change, the max AP damage compared to 5,000, the max HE damage, you can see there that takes a lot of fires to make up that difference, and that's just one shell landing. Now, yes, that is Citadel hits, and yes, a lot of these ships have trouble hitting citadels on battleships because of the nature of the short fuse, which we'll talk about here as the game gets rolling. And here's my Cunningham build, by the way. He does have Ciliax on there as an inspiration, which probably it does boost up the AP damage, which might raise it comparatively a little bit, but I still think it's strong in general in terms of damage values that you typically see. So in terms of the fuses, I had my buddy Boots Normandy. He's a mod on my Discord. He checked and verified for me. The Warspite, the Hood, and the Vanguard are the ships, the British battleships that we currently have that have normal fuses. All the other ones have shorter fuses. What that means is the AP, once it penetrates a layer of armor, it arms quicker and explodes quicker. That typically means those other ships are going to have harder times penetrating battleship citadels, meaning getting those max damage shots at the waterline. Very unlikely with those particular ships. But you can still, as we'll see here, we're going to be shooting against all three classes of ships in the short game with only AP, I believe. And we'll see the effectiveness. Even if you're not getting Citadel shots, if you're still getting 5, 7.5, 10k damage, that's not a huge drop off in terms of damage. What you want to be doing if you're shooting battleships with the AP is kind of looking at your icons on the right, seeing are they shattering or are they penetrating. If they're penetrating, which is the leftmost icon, and exploding internally, then you really have no reason to switch. If they're continuously shattering, typically at longer ranges, then you might want to switch over to HE in those instances. But he on right off the bat against that Omaha, and that's the kind of shot that if you're only loading HE, we're not going to get, because, you know, let's say we get 5,000 damage, and yeah, we might have a broken torpedo too, maybe a fire or two. There's ancillary benefits to the HE shells, mod damage, fires, you know, a little bit easier to penetrate in certain situations. But a lot of times, you know, the AP of the, especially these short fused APs, very effective against cruisers. So I mean, if you're gonna actively switch back and forth, and you know you're going to be targeting cruisers, you want to have the AP loaded for that. Yes, these tier 4 cruisers, very lightly armored, but that really doesn't change up and down the tiers. AP quite effective. Kuma was not paying attention to what happened to his buddy. He wants to try his luck. Let's see if it was a fluke or if it sticks. He gone! 2 salvos in, 2 kills, 50k damage. Compare that to, what, 10k maybe? Maybe a fire. Let's round it up to 15 and be really generous. maybe some mods, you know, maybe a fire or two, whatever. But you know, this against cruisers, if you need proof that the AP works, that's pretty good proof in my opinion. Now, the two ships that I run the HE on, the Nelson and the King George, the fire chance is ridiculous. The HE is really effective. But even in those ships, I do want to be actively switching when I'm really playing well with those particular ships to the AP when we're getting shots at the cruisers, because you can see how effective those are. If you have the longer fuses, you know, then in general, you can just kind of treat those guns as you would normal battleship guns. But again, those situations still favor AP. So now we got, I think it's the Tier 3 Soviet, whatever that thing is, and then the Koenig in front of us there, the German Tier 4. Gangit is the ship to the right here. But, you know, before we can get a shot off on them, this ship looks like it's coming to end our game. That's the... I have no idea about any of these low-tier ships. Some sort of... The Izzy, I believe. Yeah, the Izzy. Soviet Tier 3 destroyer. And for some reason, he must have been on torp cooldown, or just was dedicated to gunning me down, whatever reason. But he does get a couple torps off. Now you'll notice we are holding on to that fire. We're not using our damage con until we get those expected torps. He beaches himself around the island. I think the better play would be to continue around the far side of the island just to make sure he's safe. But balls to the walls, he's coming around. Let's see how that works out for this guy. He gone! You know, AP, when you're getting overpens, which is what you're going to get when you land on those destroyers, 10% of your max damage. That's 1,100 here. And I didn't see exactly how many we hit, but we hit enough to blow them right out of the water into the upper atmosphere. So... Again, yeah, would you rather have HE in that situation? Probably. I think, you know, HE probably would have yielded a better result, but AP seems to be working fine here. Gang gets broadside. Now, here's what we're talking about. Now, we're getting 5,000, 6,000 damage, whatever that was in that salvo, on 3 regular pens. Not bad damage. We can compare that to an HE salvo. Let's say it could be 5,000, 8,000. It could have been anything, you know, but we might have gotten some more fires. But HE, typically in a close quarters combat type of a situation, especially against a broadside ship like this, not typically going to be as effective. We're trying to get these guns knocked out. If we can hit a citadel at the close range, fine. We get 7k. Again, that's a sturdy AP shot, but it's not really the kill shot we're hoping for, and that's kind of the downside of this British battleship AP, the short fuse one. But again, I don't think that the HE damage is really going to make up for that if we switch those shells. I don't think so. You might be getting comparable numbers, you might get slightly higher or lower. It doesn't really matter. I mean, that's not the knockout punch, but that's just kind of the downside of the British short fuse AP that you just got to be aware of. Getting those kill shots, the wicked left hooks from Joe Frazier into those battleships. It's really not what these things really do. But you can get very, very nice salvos. You can get 20k salvos, and if you're having trouble getting strong damage on the battleships and their broadside, then just adjust your aim point. Usually the ships are really more heavily armored the bottom half of the hull near the waterline. If you get them on the top half of the hull with some shells drifting into the superstructure, usually you can get some pretty juicy salvos there, even if you're not getting citadel strikes. Sometimes that's comparable damage, you know, 20k to, you know, maybe 2 citadel hits, the equivalent of roughly 20k. So I would definitely strongly advise the AP until the ship proves itself to you as a player that it's not effective. Yeah, if you got angled battleship or something, then the HE is probably the better choice. But as we can see in this game here, and we can go up and down the tech tree, we can run the premiums, the AP is effective. So give it a chance, run it, see what you can get going with it, and then again, pick what works for you. Like we talked about early in the video, you can make a case for both, but in my opinion, I either 100% run AP in most games, or, you know, 95%, 90% AP, depending on the situation. So, you know, it was about a year ago when I was covering these British battleships initially, and, you know, learning about the game myself quite a bit back then, studying up. My opinion then was usually AP would be more effective, and I really haven't changed that opinion since then. So anyway, that's a look at the Iron Duke. Hope you enjoyed it. Thumbs up if you could. Subscribe if you're new. Questions, comments, leave them below, and we'll see you later.